On today's Culture Rewind, we're going to visit the location where Ted Bundy was arrested for the first time in Salt Lake City. This was a pivotal event because once he was pulled over and his vehicle was searched, he got onto Salt Lake's radar. Now Salt Lake City and Washington State detectives were comparing notes on this charming law student and his connection to multiple disappearances and murders. In previous videos in this Utah series, I briefly talked about this arrest. He was arrested for the first time in the early hours of August 16th, 1975, and it was really by chance. Bundy was parked outside of this house here on Brock Street in his Volkswagen Bug. On the next street over, just behind this house, a Utah Highway Patrol officer named Bob Hayward was finishing up paperwork in an unmarked car. 3 vehicles drove by him, and as they did, chatter about a bunch of teenagers in the neighborhood leaving a party came over the radio. Now, suspecting that they might be drunk, he decided to pursue the vehicles, but by accident, he turned down Brock Street. And as he did, Bundy suddenly shot out of a driveway at a high rate of speed without his headlights on and just took off down the road. Now, suspecting that something was amiss, Officer Hayward decided to pursue Bundy. And we'll drive the route now and we'll end up exactly where he was stopped. I'm going to speed the drive up a little bit. Now, Officer Hayward was in an unmarked car, so Bundy just kept on driving. They meandered through this neighborhood like we're doing now. At this point, aside from his crimes in Washington, Bundy had kidnapped 1 young woman and killed 5 here in Utah. He also killed a young woman and a 12-year-old child in Idaho, as well as 3 other young women in Colorado. When Bundy finally realized he was being followed, he pulled over, jumped out of his car, and started walking quickly towards Officer Hayward in his unmarked car. Immediately, Officer Hayward pulled his gun and called for backup, and I'll show you where it all came to a stop in a minute. But once another trooper showed up at the scene, they asked Bundy if they could search his car. Bundy agreed, and they quickly discovered this murder kit you see here inside a bag on the floor of the car. It contained a ski mask, another mask made out of pantyhose, a crowbar, handcuffs, trash bags, a coil of rope, an ice pick, and other items initially assumed by police to be burglary tools. Police also observed that the passenger seat had been removed and placed on the back seat, which was odd. Bundy kind of explained everything away. He was arrested on suspicion of burglary, but in the end he was released because they really didn't have anything on him. Police were suspicious of this guy though. One of Salt Lake's detectives, Jerry Thompson, quickly realized that both Bundy and his car fit the descriptions of Carol Duranche's abductor. So at that point, they began 24-hour surveillance on him. As we come to the stop sign here, Bundy made a left-hand turn, but now it's right turn only, so we'll have to turn around and I'll speed up turning around too. This arrest identified Bundy as Carol's likely kidnapper, and less than 2 months later, he was arrested for aggravated kidnapping. This incident also got Salt Lake working with investigators back in King County, Washington. And this is what led them to understand exactly what they were dealing with. One of the most infamous serial killers in history. All right, so coming up here on the right is where Bundy and Officer Hayward stopped. This is the corner of 3500 South and 2700 West. The location is now a Starbucks, but at the time it was a gas station. I'll show you a quick approach from the opposite direction too. So from 3500 South, we're turning left onto 2700 West. And they would have turned into the gas station that was on this corner here. Right after this arrest, Detective Jerry Thompson flew up to Seattle with 2 other detectives. They interviewed Liz Klepfer and learned quite a bit. She told them that just a year before Bundy moved to Utah, she was finding all sorts of weird things at her house and at Bundy's apartment. Bundy didn't have much explanation for items like crutches, plaster or a meat cleaver that had never been used for cooking. She also found it odd that he had an oriental knife in his glove box, surgical gloves, and a bag of women's clothing. She told Thompson that Bundy was always in debt, but she would find brand new items like a TV or a stereo, and when she would ask him about it, he threatened to break her neck if she told anyone about them. She also said that Bundy would get upset if she expressed wanting to cut her hair. Detectives in Washington were able to confirm that Bundy hadn't been with Liz on any of the nights that the Pacific Northwest victims disappeared, or on the day Janice Ah and Denise Naslin disappeared from Lake Sammamish. During their investigation, Salt Lake City police obtained Bundy's Volkswagen Beetle after he sold it to a teenager in Midvale. In it, they found hairs that matched 3 of his victims. The FBI forensic specialist suggested that the odds of this happening and not pointing to Bundy's guilt would be, quote, coincidence of a mind-boggling rarity, end quote. From that discovery, they put him in a lineup for Carol DeRange on October 2nd, 1975. Carol immediately ID'd Bundy, and he was arrested. This all happened 1 year after he kidnapped Nancy Wilcox. After standing trial and being found guilty, Bundy was sentenced to 1 to 15 years and sent to Utah State Prison. But Bundy wasn't done with his campaign of terror yet. He would escape custody, not once, but 2 more times. And in the process, he would leave even more destruction in his wake. We'll delve into all that in future episodes. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.